Can you have English?
Basu.
Bengali, anybody take Bengali? Bengali?
On page in English.
You need a Bengali?
Okay.
You want a Bengali?
Sure.
Bengali?
Vimal Camino, Not yet. Take a happy shower.
No, I think something disconnected from here. Okay, now Swamiji.
Hello.
No, no.
Hello.
One sec.
Is it on at the up
Okay,
there?
well, look what now.
Hello. Yes. Good evening. Are the lights turned up all the way?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, Maharaj.
Are they turned up all the
We're
way?
missing the middle.
You want the ones in the middle?
Those are too bright. The middle ones are too bright. No, up all the way. The slider should be up all the way.
No, it was
The
right
sli-
already.
the
Like
sli-
push it up,
The slider,
switch on.
slider. Is it up all the way? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So, wonderful to get a good, enthusiastic singing together of these sacred songs. I hope you know the meaning more or less. If you don't know the meaning, study it a little bit. The first hymn, Glory of Sri Ramakrishna, written by Swami Vivekananda. Second hymn, Taking Refuge in the Divine, surrendering everything, because we don't have the power to attain God realization by our own steam. So we need grace. We need grace, so we take refuge. The third hymn, the traditional praise of Divine Mother, who takes away our miseries. She takes away the miseries of all those who completely take refuge in her. And the fourth hymn, that beautiful hymn to Holy Mother, which I'm always sad when it's over, describing Holy Mother as the Divine Mother of the universe, and begging her finally to give at least a drop of love in our hearts, and that will be enough for us. My topic tonight is from the Sublime to the Sublime. And the idea behind this, see, when we first start our spiritual life, and I find it even now, the mind, it will certainly rise to the sublime. But then what happens? We get distracted, we see something very worldly, and the mind falls down. It goes down to the ridiculous. So our mind goes from the sublime to the ridiculous, but I thought, no, the mind shouldn't go to the ridiculous. Let the mind go from the sublime to the sublime. And so thereby keep our minds in a high state.
I cannot see.
And so I want to discuss especially the importance of of experiencing sublimity in our lives. Could you bring me a little glass of water? Experiencing that which is inspiring, that which is vast, that which is beautiful. How do we define sublime? It's kind of indefinable, something that is beyond our ability to exactly put words to, but it's a vastness. Let me see. An experience of vastness, of extraordinary beauty, of mystery. The Oxford Dictionary defines it as of such excellence, grandeur, or beauty as to inspire great admiration or awe. This feeling of awe, that's important. It is actually a spiritual sentiment, the experience of awe, feeling awed by something, because it's typically an experience of feeling the vastness, the greatness of something or somebody else. And what happens then, our own sense of self-importance is diminished. And that's that's a definition of spirituality, isn't it? When we stop paying so much attention to me, myself, and I, and reduce our ego. Thank you.
It's a table, right? It's a small table.
So we reduce our ego sense, our default self. No, it's fine. Hey, it's fine.
Awesome.
Never mind. Okay. So to experience the sublime, to be in the sublime is, in a sense, to be in the presence of the divine. We are always in the presence of the divine. But when we feel awe, it is a kind of knowing, or it can be a knowing. I'm suggesting that when we feel awe, we connect that with our spiritual life, so that we remind ourselves that we are in the presence of the divine, and we feel ourselves to be in the presence of the divine. So we can cultivate this experience of feeling awe. Perhaps ordinarily we don't feel it that often, but I think we can feel it every day. If we cultivate the ability to look, to see, to appreciate, to listen, to pay attention to all the amazing and special manifestations of greatness that we find in our lives. We just have to notice them. Now I'd like to go back to probably about 1842 in Kamarpukur. I'm going to read a little incident from the life of Sri Ramakrishna, which he related to his disciples, and now we are able to read it. In that part of the country, that is in Kamarpukur, the children are given muri to eat, that's the puffed rice. That's the standard Bengali snack. Children are given muri to eat in small baskets. Those who have no such baskets in their houses eat it from the folds of their cloth. So they have their cloth, and they just keep it in the fold of the cloth, and they eat it like that. And while loitering in the fields, some boys eat it from baskets, and some others from the folds of their cloth. I was then 6 or 7 years old. One morning, I took some muri in a small basket and was eating it while walking on the narrow bogs in the rice fields. It was the month of Jaishtha or Ashad. Does anyone know what month of?
Summer, end of summer.
End of summer.
And beginning of the rainy
Beginning
season.
of the rainy season.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the rainy season. That explains what happens next. So he's walking, the rice fields, they are endless, endless fields after fields after fields. But each field is not all that big. Fields are anywhere from like even the size of this room to like 2 or 3 times the size of this room, not much bigger than that mostly. And around each section of field is a little earthen dam, as it were, which he's calling a bulk. And if you walk along the bulks when there's water in the field, or if there's it hasn't yet been harvested, or even if you don't want to walk along all the rough stubs of harvested rice, then you walk along the bulks. There's pathways up there. So he's walking up there, and he notices. He says, in one part of the sky there appeared a beautiful black cloud, charged with rain. I was looking at it while eating the muri. Very soon the cloud covered almost the whole sky, when a flock of milk-white cranes flew against that black cloud. It looked so beautiful that I became very soon absorbed in an extraordinary mood. He calls it a purva bhava, a mood, I became absorbed in this tremendous mood, which he can't really put words to except to say that it was apurva. It was extraordinary. He'd never experienced it before. And such a state came on me that my external consciousness was lost. I fell down, and the muri got scattered near the bulk. People saw this and carried me home. This was the first time that I lost external consciousness in ecstasy. So Sri Ramakrishna's first experience of spiritual ecstasy was brought about by seeing an extraordinary sight, a beautiful sight in nature, something sublime. And he was filled with awe and went into ecstasy. Let's skip to about 1877 or so. Narendra, the future Swami Vivekananda, was traveling with his family to Raipur. His father had gotten a job in Raipur in Madhya Pradesh, quite a long distance from Kolkata, and part of the journey had to be made in bullock cart through the natural area. And what happens? On that particular day, the air was crisp and clear. The trees and creepers were covered with green leaves and many-colored blossoms. Birds of brilliant plumage warbled in the woods. The cart was moving along a narrow pass, where the lofty peaks rising on the two sides almost touched each other, or so it seemed. So it was extraordinary beauty. It goes on describing the beauty. Naren was charmed with the exquisite grace and beauty with which the Almighty Creator had adorned the rugged bosom of the earth. The verdant trees and creepers, laden with flowers and joyous with the warbling of birds of variegated colors, filled Naren's heart with ineffable bliss. Suddenly, his eyes alighted on a very large beehive in a cleft in one of the hills. It must have been there a very long time. His mind, in thinking of that colony of bees, was soon lost in wonder at the majesty and power of the divine providence. He lost outer consciousness and lay thus in the cart for a long time. Even after returning to the sense-perceived world, he radiated joy. So this is very interesting to me, that two of the seminal figures of our lineage, both Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, first experienced a spiritual ecstasy, first had a spiritual experience by seeing the beauty of nature. They first were able to break through the veil that obscures our mind from experiencing the divine in the beauty of nature. Of course, they both became established in that experience, so that there was never a time later when they were not fully aware of the divine, that they were always in the presence of the divine. But at first, as young children, they also had to break through that veil and to later perform spiritual practices to become established in that. So this was their first experience. A sense experience, actually. We can call it, the Western mystics call it nature mysticism. Through, as it were, communing with the natural beauty, the beauty of the natural world, and seeing the harmony there, and the beauty, and the manifestation of perfection, of tremendous sublimity. Their minds were lifted beyond their sense experience to an experience of ecstasy, of the infinite, of the divine. So the divine is constantly showing itself, himself, herself to us through so many different ways. Can we see it? That's the question. When the condition in extraordinary vastness, in extraordinary beauty, in extraordinary actions of saintly people, it's easier to see. In the smile of a newborn babies don't smile, do they? The smile, in the first smile of a new baby, when it first smiles, suddenly we see something that's extraordinary. And if we pay attention, we can see that, God is smiling at us. Divine Mother is smiling at us. She is peeping at us. So of course we can object, I've seen scenes of extraordinary beauty. I've been to the mountains, and there's lots of beautiful mountains in North Carolina. I just spent a week in the mountains in Tennessee. Some of us have been to the mountains of Colorado, or seeing the sunset over the Pacific Ocean, or the sunrise over the Atlantic, or we have even been to the Himalayas. And we didn't go into ecstasy. We didn't lose consciousness of the external world. Okay, it was beautiful, it was nice, but we're not getting that ecstasy. I think we can cultivate the capacity, and I think you know a little bit what I'm talking about, because all of us have felt our minds at least stilled to a certain extent when seeing something beautiful, a beautiful sunset, or perhaps hearing a beautiful piece of music, or something that stills our mind and we feel, how beautiful. We can cultivate this receptivity. Well, let me suggest a couple of hints. First, just look. Just absorb what we're seeing. You can try it tomorrow in the garden, looking at a beautiful flower. Just look at it. Don't say anything, don't label it, don't follow the inclination to photograph. Oh, I've got to get a photograph of it. Then the mind becomes very active. Just look at it. Let the mind stop thinking and just be present in receptivity to whatever you're experiencing. Notice and pay attention to any feeling of wonder which might arise, or any feeling of mystery, any feeling of awe. Pay attention to see if you sense that at all. Sometimes it even gives us little physical clues, like maybe a little warm feeling in the heart, or maybe a little bit goosebumps, or our breathing slows down. The hair on the back of our neck stands up. Pay attention to that. Or even sometimes perhaps that we can feel the tears are coming to our eyes. Pay attention to that. There's a beautiful quote by Albert Einstein, the great scientist. We think of the scientists as materialists, and in a sense he was a materialist. He was a brilliant, deep thinker, but much more than that, he knew what it means to feel awe at the infinite complexity of the universe. And just let me read you this quote. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He says, experiencing the mysterious is even the source of science. He or she to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. Such a person's eyes are closed. This insight into the mystery of life, he says, has also given rise to religion. To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their most primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling, is at the center of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong in the ranks of devoutly religious men. Okay, so he's not a spiritually illumined soul, we know that, but he has a certain religious sense. He has a certain experience of awe when he contemplates the universe, and he has an eye for beauty. He can experience beauty, and that reminds him that his senses are so limited, and he is only perceiving just a glimpse of the infinite grandeur and mystery of the universe, and that to him is religion. I would say it's maybe a very small first step in religion, but it's an important first step. It's a beautiful first step. And he says, it is enough for me to contemplate the mystery of conscious life, perpetuating itself through all eternity, to reflect upon the marvelous structure of the universe, which we can dimly perceive, and try humbly to comprehend even an infinitesimal part of the intelligence manifested in nature. So, I find it very inspiring that even a great scientist like Einstein has this attitude of what he calls religiousness, of devotion to what? To the mystery, to this feeling of humility, of realizing that I am but a very small drop in the vast ocean of infinity, which is the divine, of course. We are drops of light in the infinite ocean of fire. Now, Swami Vivekananda trained Sister Nivedita about this very subject. And his training, of course, could be quite strict. And I want to talk a little bit about how he trained her. Sister Nivedita, for those of you who don't know, was an Irish woman who met Swamiji in London and followed him to India, became his disciple, followed him to India to serve him and serve India. But she still had a lot of her Western notions that needed to be scolded out of her. And so Swami taught her a lot, scolded her a lot, and she became one of the great interpreters of his message. And her book, The Master as I Saw Him, is a must-read for devotees of Swami Vivekananda, because it paints such a powerful and insightful picture of the great teacher. So, first of all, she points out how Swamiji pointed out to her the Hindu's love of nature. He would take up the subject of the Hindu love of nature as shown in the choice of sites for temples and architectural monuments, as he had declared in London that the saints lived on the hilltops in order to enjoy the scenery. So now he pointed out, citing one example after another, that our Indian people always consecrated places of peculiar beauty and importance by making there their altars of worship. And I always think, yes, in India, the most beautiful places, what happens? We build a temple there. In America, what happens? We put up a viewpoint and put up a shop with souvenirs. Okay, go to the Grand Canyon, there's no temple. The Grand Canyon itself is a kind of a temple, I guess. But there's no temples there. There are the viewpoints and the shops where you get souvenirs and those kind of things. But whatever it may be, why not? Yes, that is exactly the right thing. In the beautiful place, at the mountaintop, it's breathtakingly beautiful. There we build a temple. Of course we do. To remind us The Japanese also do that. The Japanese have their Shinto temples in the places of more exquisite beauty.
Buddhist too.
The Buddhists. But now, here's the caveat. Swami Vivekananda says, keep that appreciation within. Keep it within. And he contrasts the Hindu and the Western etiquette. And she writes how the constant expression of feeling, whether of pain, admiration, or surprise, was to him shocking. And Nivedita must have been always expressing that, always wanting to express her feelings. That constant expression of feeling was shocking. It was not necessary to stigmatize it as irreligious, for it was ill-bred, simply a sign of poor upbringing, in Swamiji's opinion, apparently. The Oriental expects of a man that he should feel and keep his feeling to himself. Very interesting. Yes, he's not saying don't feel. Yes, feel, but keep it within. Let it take us deeper. When we express it, it takes all the steam out of it. It takes all the power out of it. Any constant pointing out of the curious or the beautiful appears to him an unwarrantable intrusion on the privacy and self-directedness of thought. And interestingly, Nivedita points out that he stressed this very much. This was a point, she writes, on which the Swami was exacting. He would impose on the European disciple long periods of severe restraint. Struggle to realize yourself, he said on a certain occasion, without a trace of emotion. So, what do we make of this? On the one hand, he points out that, see these beautiful places of beauty, we build temples there, see God. But then, don't get all emotional about it. Spirituality is not emotional, we have to go beyond emotion. But emotion can take us there. Devotion, actually, emotion is distantly related to devotion, or somewhat related, but it's not simply emotion. It's emotion purified and directed solely towards the divine. And then it starts to ripen into devotion. So she gives an example. Watching the fall of dead leaves once in the stillness of an autumn evening. Okay, so it's a still autumn evening and some leaves are falling off the tree. And it's beautiful. So he did not deny that there was poetry in the sight, but he declared that mental excitement roused by what was merely an event of the external sense world was childish and out of place. All Western people, he said, had to learn the great lesson of holding experience and emotion apart. Watch the fall of the leaves, but gather the sentiment of the sight from within at some later time. Perhaps this is the key or the clue why Swamiji is exacting about this, because it's this mental excitement roused by a sense experience. That he didn't want Nivedita to have. That he doesn't want us to get mentally excited. Yes, see the poetry, but rather let that poetry still our minds. Not that it will excite our minds. Oh my gosh, how beautiful. Let me get a picture. Hey, did you see those leaves? Oh, let me write a poem about it. No. See it. Let the mind be stilled. And realize that it's God speaking to us, showing itself to us.
Is introvert and extrovert. So the introvert doesn't express it, but still you think the excitement is in the mind? Is that what it means?
Here Swamiji is suggesting don't let the mental,
So,
you're not an introvert.
I'm just asking.
Swami Swamiji, what was his logic behind that? I'm trying to understand.
Okay, well, I'm trying to explain it, but I don't know how well I'm doing. See? Mental excitement in spiritual life, we are asked to gain some mastery over our minds. Our minds are a tremendous tool, and in this case of it being in the presence of something awesome, something sublime, which lifts our minds, will we let our minds get excited? Then we lose it. We lose the opportunity to dive deeper. If rather we let that experience of beauty, of sublimity, still our minds into a state of quietude, of calmness, and certainly practicing daily meditation will help us in that, then this can be a blessing for us as we gain a little bit of a sense of the presence of God. We turn it into a spiritual experience. Every experience of our life, every moment can be a spiritual experience if we're ready for it. So I'm trying to suggest that learning to cultivate the ability to experience the sublime is a way for us to have spiritual experience, to know that we are experiencing the divine.
Rather than the sense experience.
Which it is a sense, it starts as a sense experience, but let it not stay there, let it not stay on the sense plane. Let it lift our minds to an experience of the vastness, of the infinitude of the divine, and the reduction of our own strong sense of self as that reduces.
That makes sense.
And he also there's also a caution, of course. See, if we see a beautiful sunset, oh, that was so beautiful, so spiritual, and then we start to want that. I gotta have a sunset. My only spiritual experience can be if I see a sunset. No. It gives us a little taste, and then sit down on your cushion or on your meditation chair and go deeper. He says, Nivedita writes, the Swami would speak with horror of that bondage which shows itself in the quest of subtle metaphysical pleasures. In all idealism, he would say, lies the danger of idealizing merely what we have reached. And maybe that would apply to Einstein, where he reached a sense of the mysterious, and he said, well, that's religion to me. And Swami Vivekananda would say, no, religion is realization. That's the first step. Subtle metaphysical pleasures, all right, always looking for that sense of the sublime in the beauty of nature. I'm not saying that that's the end of spiritual life. I'm suggesting that that's a place where we can begin to cultivate that experience of the vast, experience of awe, which is itself a spiritual sentiment. And we can experience that also in a temple. We can experience it also in many different ways. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I want to talk a little more still about this, because I'm not suggesting, and Swamiji also seems to be concerned that an experience of awe in nature might be reduced just to a sensuality. And that's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm suggesting, as we saw that Vivekananda's own case and Sri Ramakrishna's case, their first experience of spiritual ecstasy was brought about by an experience of awe, but in the beauty of nature. But if it remains on the sense plane, then we must have beautiful scenery in order to feel elevated. And if we don't have beautiful scenery or beautiful music, then we can't feel that spiritual elevation. So that's not. Sri Ramakrishna has always said, go forward. Oh, start here. Go forward. Go forward. What is that experience of beauty? Where is that beauty? What makes something beautiful? Sister Nivedita was on board ship with Swami Vivekananda on his second visit to the West, and they were in the Mediterranean Ocean. It was dark, she writes, when we approached Sicily, which is the island at the toe of Italy, right? It was dark when we approached Sicily, and against the sunset sky, Etna was in slight eruption. Mount Etna is the famous or infamous volcano. And so, it's sunset and it's dark, but the volcano is slightly erupting. And as we entered the straits of Messina, the moon rose, and I walked up and down the deck beside the Swami, while he dwelt on the fact that beauty is not external, but already in the mind. On one side frowned the dark crags of the Italian coast. On the other, the island was touched with silver light. Messina must thank me, he said. It is I who give her all her beauty. So this is actually, the beauty is within. But the external calls it out. We see it externally. It's within. A number of disciples of Sri Ramakrishna traveled in the Himalayas and experienced the beauty of the mountains. And the young Swami Akhandananda, he was overwhelmed by his first vision of the first darshan of the Himalayas. And he just went into a kind of ecstasy. He didn't lose external consciousness though, but he also, he writes in his reminiscences, I thought I would never see such a sight again. I took in as much of that divine Himalayan beauty and calmness as my eyes and senses could absorb, till my heart was full. This panoramic view was so picturesque that I wholly abandoned myself to it and felt there was no more on this earth. Okay, so that's one side. But I'd like now to contrast that with Swami Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj. He, of course, this is Akhandananda remembering when he was a teenager still, roaming he went all the way to Tibet barefoot, without a penny, and or a paisa, and had incredible experiences. But now Swami Shivananda, who was a real meditator, a real deep meditator, and he relates, I have some experience as to how long the appeal of natural scenery lasts. Not for long. When the mind would lose contact with external objects and be merged in the object of meditation, there would be no awareness of the environment. When the ideas of time and space are eliminated, then all that remains is bliss alone. Existence, consciousness, bliss intensified. Inside you it is all uniformly like that. What beauty, after all, can there be in the external world? Nothing at all. The mind of beauty, the mind of all beauty is inside. The more the mind enters inside, the more does it get absorbed there. So Swami Shivananda certainly could appreciate the beautiful mountain scenery. And when he was in Uti, he would spend sometimes a long time looking at the rolling hills of the Nilgiris, and he used to say that it was a very mystically charged place, that many yogis must have meditated there and rishis must have attained realization there, because he could go deep. He found it a very suitable place to go deep into meditation. But he also would say, yes, maybe the external mountains might inspire him, but very soon he would close his eyes and plunge deep into meditation, and then all the external beauty is gone. But because as beautiful and vast as a mountain range might be, the divine is so much more vast, infinite, and infinitely beautiful. Just imagine, he says, just imagine how vast he is. It is enough if the mind gets merged in him even only once. Then the mind can no longer derive any happiness from things outside. He is, in fact, the mine of all peace. Human life will have been spent in vain unless one sees him. So that's Swami Shivananda. Now I'd like to turn briefly to current scientific research. There's a scientist by the name of Dacher Keltner. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Dacher is his first name. Dacher or Dacher probably. Dacher Keltner. His book, Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. It falls right into our topic. The New Science of Everyday Wonder. And he defines awe as being in the presence of something vast and mysterious that transcends your current understanding of the world. And he argues, as I've been kind of suggesting, that we can cultivate the experience of awe and wonder, and it will benefit us physically, emotionally, and I would add, spiritually. And he's done a number of different kinds of psychological testing with his colleagues, and found that people who have more awe in their lives are happier. They're happier people. They are more compassionate, and they're more ready to help other people. They do some of those funny psychological experiments with university students because they're university professors. So, for instance, they ask students one by one to look at either at a beautiful old grove of trees on the college campus, or standing in more or less the same place, to look at a rather nondescript building. And they ask them to look at either the trees or the building for, say, 5 minutes. And then they'll ask them some questions after looking at that. But actually, that's not the test. The test is a trick, which these psychologists often like to do. The test is, while they're looking at either the building or the tree, somebody comes walking along with an armful of papers and books or something and sort of stumbles and drops them all on the ground by accident. And then sort of gets down and starts picking them up. And the test is, does the student come over to help them pick it up? And the people who are looking at the tree are more likely to help pick up the papers and whatever. Much more likely to help. Very interesting. We think, what's the difference? Someone's looking at a building, someone's looking at a tree. The ones who look at the tree are much more likely to go help pick up the things they dropped. That was the actual test. Very sneaky, these psychologists. They did a big study across 26 different cultures, and they found 8 wonders of life, 8 areas in which people and which we can experience awe. And interestingly, though, I always think of the beauty of nature, and that's why I focused on that. But actually, that is number one only for Americans. For Chinese, the number one area of experiencing awe is moral beauty. The beauty of someone who was showing extraordinary courage or kindness or strength or overcoming some tremendous difficulty. That's the first area of experiencing awe in China. And it's actually first on this list, so it must be most of the world that rates higher. And for Americans, it's number 3. So there's an interesting difference there. Moral beauty. A second one is something I've never thought of. He calls it collective effervescence. We feel merged into a collective self, a tribe, an oceanic we. And this can happen when we are in a large crowd of people. And interestingly, Sri Ramakrishna would often go into ecstasy when he saw large crowds of people. Why? Well, because he would see the divine shining in everyone. So if there's 500 or 1,000 people, then he would feel all the more inspired, as he would say, because there's so many different embodiments of the divine. This kind of experience can actually happen even in like a sporting event. a football game where there's, how many people go to a football? Like 50,000 people. It's a huge number of people all watching the thing. And then they'll do the wave. You know the wave? Where they do this kind of thing and then they wave their arms here and it goes all the way around. Apparently it doesn't take many people to start a wave. It just takes a handful of people to start and the whole stadium will take it up. And people can experience sometimes a sense of feeling unified with all these 50,000 people as you're all doing the wave as it's going around and you're rooting for your team and a certain experience of the diminution of our own sense of self-importance as we're part of something larger. We're part of a humanity. We're part of a huge group. So that kind of experience is an experience of awe. Dance can also happen in dance and in religious services where we have many people participating in a religious function of some kind. The number 3 was nature, as we talked quite a bit about. Music. Music has that power. Music has a tremendous power. It can lift us into an experience of awe. Visual design. Examples, a beautiful cathedral, or perhaps like Hoover Dam, the biggest dam in the world. It's amazing, it's huge that human beings could construct such a massive structure. It also can be an experience of awe. There's spiritual and religious awe. That I think, that really should be my subject, but perhaps we go to some ancient temple in some remote part of India where the divine has been worshipped for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, and we feel something. Or we go to the birthplace of Sri Ramakrishna at Kamarpukur, and we feel something. Or we go to the Belur Mutt, our headquarters, where the hymn that we sing tonight every evening at the beginning of Arati, sort of a little bit off key and not quite in perfect rhythm, but then suddenly we're at Belur Mutt and the temple is full of 1,000 monks and devotees all sitting, and the beauty of the pujari who's waving that light so slowly, and the music, all the devotees are lifting their voices together and singing slowly with great feeling that hymn, and the Bakawaj, the drum is playing, and it can be overwhelming. It can bring tears to our eyes. I think some of you must have tasted that. It can bring tears to the eyes of someone who's not even a devotee. Brought tears, I shouldn't say it, but my parents visited me when I was staying in Peterwatt, and I brought them to the evening prayer. They didn't know what was being sung. They don't know much about Ramakrishna, but they felt deeply moved to participate in that ritual. That's a kind of spiritual and religious awe. Life and death, entering and leaving this world, can be moments from me. Those of you who have witnessed the birth of a child, or the death of a loved one, it can be an experience of awe, an experience of mystery. How there were 2 people that went into there was one person that went into the delivery room, but 2 people came out. It's amazing. Actually, it's amazing, isn't it? We all went through it. Each and every one of us went through it, but we don't remember. But when we see it happen, tremendously amazing. Or someone is here, and then they take their last breath, and they're no longer here. They're no longer in their bodies. It's also very moving. We can experience the awe here. Spiritual awe. It's a spiritual experience. Epiphanies, the last one listed here. We suddenly gain a deep understanding of an essential truth of life. Something awakens in us, and oh, now I understand. So sometimes we think that many of these things I'm describing, a childbirth, unless we're a midwife or a what's the term? Obstetrician. Obstetrician. We're not going to see too many of those. Those are like once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime experiences. But that's, contrast that, on the other hand, with everyday awe. These scientists who researching it found that people, if they really think about it, they think, yes, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, they experience awe. And an essential component of this experience is a reduction of what is called, by the psychologists, the default self, or they have a fancy name, it's a brain process, maybe Dr. Uppal knows about it, the default mode network. Have you heard of that?
Yes,
It's some kind of neurological thing. I know you're not a neurologist, but you're sort of in the same general field. This default mode network, that's parts of the brain that are active when we process information from an egocentric point of view. So that part of our brain that processes information, experience, from an egocentric point of view, that default mode network is reduced in experiences of awe, which suggests that it can be a kind of spiritual experience because it's the ego that has to step out of the way for us to experience the divine. And so he suggests, live with wonder. Cultivate wonder. That wonder may not yet be awe, but it is a step on the way towards awe. Cultivating wonder, leading us to more deep thinking, more deep thought. Tap into your childlike sense of wonder. A young child is amazed by everything, no? We lose that. Oh, I know all that. I know what that is. Oh, that's a flower. That's a flower. How amazing. Look at those petals, each one perfectly formed. And each flower on the plant has exactly 5 petals. Oh my gosh, look. There's one with 6 petals. How did that happen? All of them are perfectly formed with 5 petals, but there's one with 6 petals. How amazing. Go to someplace new. Look with a different pair of eyes at things. Bend down and look at something from a different angle. Cultivate reverence for life, for the complexity, for our very little place in the infinite cosmos. You know, they did that. They had the small blue dot. Does that ring a bell? The small blue dot. The spaceship that went out beyond the solar system. Well, when it was out quite far from the sun and the Earth, they had pictures of vastness of space, and there was a star that's our sun. And if you look very carefully on this incredibly vast space, if you look very carefully, you see a small, tiny little blue dot. That's our Earth. It's a big place to us, but when you go out in the spaceship and you see the vastness of space, it's a small blue dot. And here we are having all kinds of fights and arguments about a small blue dot. Shame
That was
on
Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan?
Yeah.
Carl Sagan.
Pale blue dot.
Pale blue dot. Thank you for pointing that out. The pale blue dot. Among the billions and billions of stars, as he would say. Yes, he was an atheist, but he had tremendous sense of wonder. He had that. Yes. And he says, this is a quote, "It is hard to imagine a single thing you can do that is better for your body and mind than finding awe outdoors. Doing so leads to the reduced likelihood of cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety, and cancer. It reduces asthma in children. It leads to reductions in everyday aches and pains, allergies, vertigo, and eczema. These benefits of being in nature have been observed across the lifespan, ranging from newborns, who enjoy higher birth weight when born near green spaces, to the very elderly. Our bodies respond to healthy doses of awe-inspiring nature like we respond to a delicious and nutritious meal, a good sleep, a quenching drink of water, or an uplifting gathering with friends or family. We feel nourished, strengthened, empowered, and alive." Okay, I read it kind of jokingly because on the one hand, I think that's great. On the other hand, he's still on the surface, actually. Okay, we get better mental health, better physical health. And I'm trying to suggest that we can also use this, cultivate this sense of wonder to deepen our spiritual life, and that we will benefit spiritually. And he also notes across cultures certain physical signs like chills, tears, horripilation, the hair standing on end, and vocalizations. The vocalizations are very common across cultures. Ooh, ah, wow. These kind of vocalizations in the presence of the awesome. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the great transcendentalists, nature mystic, standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God. A beautiful quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. We are called to see the divine in every being and everywhere at all times. The divine is not more present in a beautiful scenery or in a beautiful piece of music than at the garbage dump. God is equally present at the garbage dump. But easier to see in a beautiful scenery than at the garbage dump. It is easier. There's a more expression of sattva in the beautiful scenery, and more an expression of tamas at the garbage dump. Still, eventually we shall have to see the divine in the garbage dump also. But cultivating a sense of the sublime will help us. And let me close with a beautiful quote from Swami Vivekananda's very powerful and important lecture, God in Everything, from Jnana Yoga, which is on the Isha Upanishad. I can only lay before you what the Vedanta seeks to teach, and that is the deification of the world. The Vedanta does not in reality denounce the world. The ideal of renunciation nowhere attains such a height as in the teachings of Vedanta. But at the same time, dry, suicidal advice is not intended. It really means deification of the world. Giving up the world as we think of it, as we know it, as it appears to us, and to know what it really is. Deify it. It is God alone. We read at the commencement of one of the oldest of the Upanishads, the Isha Upanishad, whatever exists in this universe is to be covered with the Lord. Isha vasamidam sarvam yatkin jagatyam jagata. We have to cover everything with the Lord himself, not by a false sort of optimism, not by blinding our eyes to the evil, but by really seeing God in everything. So we can start with the 8 wonders of life, and finally I'll close with this beautiful poem from William Blake, for just the four lines of it, Auguries of Innocence, where he suggests that simply by giving our attention to even the smallest things, we touch the infinite. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. William Blake's famous poem. Well, thank you for giving me a chance to
Thank you.
share my thoughts on
Thank you for,
on
all the
finding
beautiful
awe
lecture.
and cultivating sense of awe, cultivating sense of wonder and how that might help us in our spiritual life and certainly make our lives richer and more peaceful. Let's close with a chant, with a prayer. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmamritam Gamaya Aviravirva iti Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tena Mam Pahi Nityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Oh, peace, peace. I'll be here till Wednesday morning, so Monday evening. What's my schedule for Monday?
Tomorrow is Holy Mother.
Okay, we'll be reading from the book of Holy Mother's Gospel. And then Tuesday evening, I will be speaking on Swami Vivekananda and Shiva. And Tuesday morning, are we announcing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Tuesday morning, there is going to be a puja class on our ritualistic puja, some of the mantras and mudras and the main ideas of puja. And that probably, what time does it start?
9:30.
It starts at 9:30 here at the ashrama, and it'll probably go for about 2-3 hours, something like that. So it's kind of workshop, puja workshop. So I hope just the right number of people come, not too many and not too few.
As of now, we have 5 people.
So currently we have 5 people signed up. Talk to Devi if you want to attend, just so we know who's coming.